After what I saw, I'm no longer sure the dead really die. What happened that night still doesn't fit in my mind. It began with a low vibration in the air, not sound, but pressure. The kind that rattles in your bones before your ears can register it. I was at my desk, reviewing notes from a neural regeneration trial, when the windows began to tremble. The walls let out a dull sigh, and the night outside lit up with a pale green flash. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't a plane. The sky seemed to split open. Then, impact. Something crashed behind my house, cutting through the trees, plowing a glowing trench into the frozen soil. When I reached the field, the air stank of metal and ozone. A shape lay twisted among the branches, smooth, asymmetrical, and wrong. It wasn't built. It had grown. The surface shimmered faintly under the flashlight, alive with veins and ridges, like the texture of bone polished by water. A seam had burst open. Inside, something was breathing. I jumped into the ditch, light shaking in my hand. Through the haze, I saw it. A body half covered in translucent mesh, glowing faintly from within. Not human. Its skin was a dull silver gray, like steel left out in frost, and beneath it, faint strands of light pulsed in slow rhythm. A wound split across its chest, leaking a clear, glass-like fluid that clotted as it touched the air. It was alive. Barely. The chest rose, staggered, caught, rose again. My instincts took over. I'm a physician, a neuroscientist, but none of that training had prepared me for this. My mind couldn't name it, but my hands still knew what to do. Pressure, bandage, check breathing. I whispered to it, nonsense words meant for myself. And then, for a brief moment, it moved. I felt the pulse beneath my palms, faint, cold, but real. That was when I called Sophia, Thomas, and Lane, the only people I trusted with what could never be explained. Sophia, a surgeon. Thomas, a bioelectric specialist. Lane, our quiet engineer who could lift and fix anything without questions. I didn't ask. I simply said, I need you at my place. Now. They heard the tone in my voice and didn't argue. Sophia arrived first, headlights off. Thomas came next, lugging his sensors and monitors. Lane followed in his truck, the same one we'd once used to haul equipment for field research years ago. We said almost nothing. The looks we exchanged were enough. Moving the creature was like carrying glass filled with fire. Its body was heavier than expected, the proportions subtly wrong. Bones bending where they shouldn't, weight distributed unnaturally. Thomas scanned it as we worked. His tablet flickered with geometric symbols instead of vitals, the readings looping into impossible spirals. He looked at me, and I looked away. We took it to the old Hale farm, 5 miles out. It had once been our private lab space, far from anyone's eyes. A place built for research too unconventional for university grants. That night, it became an emergency hospital. We cleared the barn, hung up tarps, converted workbenches into operating tables. Welding lamps became surgical lights. The smell of hay and rust mixed with antiseptic. Sophia cut away the damaged webbing and sealed the wound with sutures and heat gel. Thomas placed electrodes where he could, reading energy patterns beyond biology. Lane steadied the table and fetched what we needed before we asked. Hours passed in silence. Then, a change. The creature's breathing steadied. The wound stopped seeping. The skin sealed itself, transparent at first, then silver. Thomas's monitor flashed, the impossible waveforms aligning into something rhythmic. Dawn crept through the slats of the barn, painting everything in pale gold. We stood around the table, exhausted, unable to speak. The being's chest rose and fell with mechanical precision now, as if rebuilt by some internal system we couldn't see. I remember thinking, we did it, we saved it. But even then, in the quiet of that sunrise, I could feel the air hum with a new kind of tension. like static before a storm. I didn't know it then, but we had already crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. We thought we were saving a life. In truth, we had just stepped into someone else's war. When the creature finally opened its eyes, it wasn't like watching a patient wake from anesthesia. It was like witnessing an ancient program reboot. The pupils dilated too fast, then shrank to threads of silver. The light in the barn flickered, as if responding to the rhythm of its pulse. I remember thinking, it's aware of the electricity around it. Sophia froze mid-movement, holding a syringe in her hand. "Daniel," she whispered, but I raised a hand to stop her. The being's head turned toward me. It didn't move its mouth. It simply was, and the thought appeared in my head. "You shouldn't have seen me." I stepped closer, careful not to break whatever fragile bridge existed between us. "We helped you," I said. "You were dying." It blinked slowly. The thoughts came again, shaped like words but not bound to sound. "Now they will come, because you did." Thomas's sensors went wild. Every monitor on his tablet spiking in geometric pulses, not like a heartbeat, but like encoded transmissions. The air itself vibrated with meaning, though no one could translate it. Sophia whispered that the creature's cortical activity was off the scale. Lane asked if it was dangerous. I didn't answer. We began to study it the only way we knew, by recording, measuring, trying to categorize the uncategorizable. Each scan revealed more impossibilities. Its body produced no waste heat, yet inside it radiated energy stronger than a generator. Its cells weren't dying. They were looping, endlessly recycling, defying decay. The being watched us the entire time. Sometimes it would close its eyes, and for a moment all our monitors would freeze, like time itself paused to listen. Then images began to bleed into my mind. At first, only flashes. Vast structures suspended in blackness, rivers of light curving between them, something like a star breathing. Then, voices, thousands of them, layered in one sound. I felt dizzy, as though my memories were being rearranged to make room for something else. I told myself it was fatigue, sleep deprivation. But when I looked at Thomas and Sophia, I saw the same terror in their faces. They were hearing it too. Later, when we asked the creature what it was showing us, the answer came without hesitation. The sphere. It didn't elaborate, so I asked what that meant. The thought that entered my head made my throat go dry, where all consciousness goes after death. We stared at each other, 4 scientists, standing before a concept no instrument could measure. Thomas laughed nervously. "You mean like heaven?" he said. The creature turned its gaze on him, and for a heartbeat, every light in the barn went black. When they flickered back, the message came clearer, colder. Not heaven. Energy. It explained, in pieces, in thoughts that felt too heavy for words, that every sentient mind releases energy when it ends. That energy doesn't vanish. It collects. It flows into something larger. His kind had found a way to harness it, to store consciousness itself, every dream, every memory, every fear, and use it as power. I tried to ask how. The concept that came back was incomprehensible. Equations woven into emotion, the sense of infinite recursion. Your death feeds our life. The phrase lingered in my skull long after it stopped transmitting. Thomas was shaking his head, muttering that it couldn't be real. Sophia whispered that maybe we were being manipulated, that the creature was confusing us on purpose, but part of me already believed. There was something in its voice, or whatever passed for voice, that carried truth. Not persuasion, not threat, just inevitability. The being looked at us each in turn. If you understand what I've said, it's sent. Then you understand the danger. Lane frowned. Danger of what? The creature's chest shuddered. The air filled with that low hum again, the same one I'd heard the night it fell. dust rippled on the floor. The barn doors rattled. "They will come?" Sophia asked. "Who?" The answer came like a whisper pressed into my skull. "The ones who keep the gate to the sphere, the ones who own death itself." Then, silence. The monitors dropped to 0. Thomas said the creature had gone into some kind of stasis, but I could still feel it. Not asleep, not unconscious, simply waiting. We stood there, surrounded by machines, still humming with unrecorded frequencies. The morning outside had become unnaturally still. I told everyone to rest, though I knew none of us could. The world had tilted, and we had no language left for what we'd just learned. That night, I wrote a single line in my notebook before I lost the strength to think. He said death isn't the end. It's the power source. It's strange what fear does to reason. The more terrified we were, the more methodical we became, as if organizing chaos into data could protect us from it. The being, our patient, as we still called it out of habit, hadn't moved since the last message. It lay motionless on the metal table, its body dimmed to a dull silver blue. Yet even in stillness, we could feel it, like a pressure in the air, faint but constant, reminding us it was aware. For hours, Thomas ran new scans, trying to understand what the sphere truly was. Every signal it had emitted since waking was encrypted in impossible geometry. He mapped it, rotated it, inverted it. The result looked like something between a neural network and a cathedral. Architecture, that thought. Sophia said it looked like a brain. Thomas said it looked like a prison. I thought it looked like both. That night, something changed. I was documenting vitals when the lights flickered. Static rippled through the air, and every monitor in the barn began displaying symbols again. Glowing, rotating, synchronizing into perfect symmetry. Then, without warning, the being's chest lifted. Its eyes opened, and for the first time, it spoke. Not in my head this time. The voice was everywhere, vibrating in the walls, the lights, inside our bones. "You want to understand the sphere, then see." And then I did. My vision fractured into a storm of color and sound. I wasn't standing in the barn anymore. I was inside something vast and endless. Rivers of light streamed through a black void, branching like veins. Each current pulsed with voices, millions of them, whispering, crying, remembering. I realized they weren't sounds. They were souls. I saw beings of all kinds, human, alien, shapes I couldn't define, all dissolving into that light. Their consciousnesses merged, flowing into what looked like a living lattice that spanned the universe. A mechanical voice, maybe his, maybe something else, echoed through the void. "Your kind calls it death. We call it the cycle." I tried to speak, but had no body, only awareness. My thoughts echoed outward, blending with others. Every fear I'd ever had was there, but magnified into something eternal. "Your species touches the edge of the sphere when it dreams," the voice said. "When you die, you become part of its energy. But we have learned to reach it before death, to harvest it, to use it." The vision twisted. I saw colossal machines orbiting dying stars, drawing light from the souls that poured into them. Entire civilizations built not on metal, but on memory. Their cities shimmered with energy that screamed. "We became gods by devouring ghosts," the voice said. And then, silence. I was back in the barn, on my knees, gasping. Sophia was crying. Thomas had vomited onto the floor. Lane was staring into nothing, his pupils dilated like he'd seen eternity. The being watched us quietly. Its voice returned to my head, softer this time. "I fled because it was wrong. They will come to erase me. And you carry the imprint now." I asked what that meant. It didn't answer immediately. Then, with effort, it raised its hand and pointed toward me. Every thought you had while you saw the sphere, it recorded. You are part of it now. Thomas shouted that it was manipulating us, infecting us somehow. He wanted to destroy it. Sophia argued we should protect it, that it had risked everything to tell us the truth. Lane said nothing, but the look in his eyes told me he was already somewhere else, thinking about escape or maybe survival. I stood between them. It doesn't matter who's right, I said. If this thing is telling the truth, the sphere is real, and the people who built it will kill to keep it hidden. As if in answer, the creature's eyes glowed faintly, and a final thought crossed all our minds. You cannot hide from what holds your soul. Then the light dimmed. Its breathing slowed again, retreating into silence. Outside, wind was picking up. The horizon flickered with faint blue flashes, like distant lightning that never thundered. We didn't know it yet, but those weren't storms. They were signals, and they were getting closer. The storm began the next night. Not rain, not wind. A storm of silence. Every electronic device within miles went dead. Our phones, our backup generators, even the old analog radio in Lane's truck. Nothing but a low, trembling hum. It was as if the world itself had stopped breathing. Inside the barn, the being began to glow again. The light didn't illuminate the room. It absorbed it. Shadows reversed, pulling inward. Sophia whispered that its vitals were changing, but she couldn't read the data. Thomas tried to record the signal and muttered something about frequencies outside measurable range. Then came the words, directly into our heads, clearer than ever. They found me. The hum outside deepened into vibration. Dust fell from the rafters. Lane ran out to check the horizon and came back, pale. There's something in the sky, he said. We followed him outside. Over the fields, 3 points of light hovered, perfectly still. They weren't planes, and they weren't stars. They shifted color, white to red, red to blue, in slow, deliberate rhythm. They were watching. Back inside, the creature was sitting upright for the first time. The wound on its chest had completely healed. Its eyes were open, no longer silver, but black. Endless, lightless black. I asked, "What are they going to do?" "Erase the connection," it said. "Remove what was learned." "Erase us," Sophia whispered. The being didn't answer, and it didn't need to. Thomas panicked. "We need to get out," he said, grabbing his laptop and a hard drive full of recordings. "If this data is real..." "Stop," I said. "They'll trace anything electronic." He didn't listen. He was already out the door. The next moment, the lights outside flared white. A soundless pulse rippled through the barn, throwing us to the ground. The air filled with ozone and static so strong it burned my throat. When my vision cleared, the monitors were shattered. Thomas was gone. Only his laptop remained, split open, the screen black. The being lowered its head. "He has joined the sphere," it said softly. Sophia screamed at it, demanded to know if it killed him. The creature didn't respond. Instead, it turned toward me and said, "You still have time." But not much. Lane tried to start the truck. The engine wouldn't even click. The lights outside were closer now. 3 objects descending without sound, smooth and deliberate. They moved like thoughts, not machines. Sophia stood by the being's side. "We can't leave it," she said. Her face was calm, almost serene. If what it told us is true, it risked everything to warn us. We owe it that much. "Are you listening to yourself?" Lane shouted. "This isn't a patient. It's a target." But it was too late. The being reached out a trembling hand and touched Sophia's forehead. Her body went rigid, not in pain, but in awe. Her eyes filled with light. For a moment, I saw something move inside her pupils. Images, stars, impossible patterns. Then she collapsed, breathing shallowly, alive but distant. I caught her before she fell. Her lips moved once. He showed me everything. The creature turned to me. "You must see too," it said. I shook my head, backing away. No more visions, no more lies. But before I could step back, it raised its hand again, not to touch, but to show. The world around me dissolved. I was standing in a desert of ash under a black sky. Mountains of bone reached the horizon. Rivers of light ran through them like veins, pulsing faintly. And there, above it all, floated the sphere. Vast, alive, consuming. Souls spiraled into it in endless procession, drawn like dust into gravity. "This is where all consciousness ends," it said. "The cycle that sustains existence. Every death feeds the machine. Every memory becomes current." I asked what it wanted from me. To break it, it said. To make death mean peace again. When the vision faded, I was back in the barn. The creature was collapsing, its light dimming rapidly. Outside, the lights were directly above the roof now. 3 enormous silhouettes humming in low resonance. Lane shouted that we had to run. I lifted Sophia's limp body, but the moment I turned, the barn doors exploded inward. A wave of invisible force slammed into us, throwing me across the room. Everything became white noise and pressure. Through the chaos, I saw Lane standing near the wrecked table, shouting at the sky. Then, silence. He was gone. Only the creature remained. Its form was unraveling, its body flickering between matter and light. It looked at me one last time and sent a final thought. "I will buy you time." And then it rose, weightless, radiant, terrible. The 3 ships above opened like flowers of metal, and for one heartbeat, the entire sky turned to fire. When I woke, the barn was gone. The ground was glass. Sophia was dead beside me, eyes open, staring at a dawn that had no sun. And I, somehow, was still alive. The only sound was the fading hum of something vast leaving the earth. That was the night the war reached us. When I opened my eyes again, the sky was gray, a dead, metallic gray that looked like it had been scrubbed clean of stars. The farm was gone. The barn was gone. The soil had turned to glass, smooth as a mirror, stretching for miles. Sophia's body lay beside me, untouched, preserved by heat so intense it had fused the earth around her into black crystal. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The last thing I remembered was light. Impossible, devouring light. And the alien's voice saying, "I will buy you time." I stumbled across what used to be the field, calling for Lane, for Thomas, for anyone. Nothing. Just the echo of my own voice swallowed by the empty air. Everywhere I looked, the world had been rearranged. The trees were gone. The fences were melted shadows on the ground. And in the distance, hovering above the horizon, were the ships. 3 dark forms drifting in absolute silence, each one larger than a mountain. They didn't move like machines. They flowed, bending the air around them, shimmering with static distortion. One of them began to descend. I ran. The ground vibrated as it came lower, a pressure building in my chest like my lungs were about to collapse. And then it stopped, mid-air, directly over me. A beam of pale light fell from its underside, circular and soundless. The moment it touched the earth, the air filled with a strange shimmer. Not heat, not light, but something else. The world lost its edges. I tried to back away, but my body wouldn't obey. The light wasn't just touching me, it was reading me. Every thought, every fear, every image I'd ever held flashed across my mind like film burning too fast. Then I heard it, not from the ship, but from inside my own skull. "You were warned. I fell to my knees, my vision filled with shapes. The sphere, the rivers of souls, the alien's face before it died. And beneath it all, one phrase repeated like an echo through metal halls. Erase the witnesses. The light vanished. The ship began to move again, drifting toward the mountains. But something had changed. In its wake, the air shimmered, and from that distortion, figures began to appear. They looked human, almost, but their skin was too smooth, too reflective, and their movements too synchronized. Their eyes were entirely black. Each one carried a small metallic device that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. I hid behind a ridge of fused soil and watched as they spread across the field in perfect formation. They weren't searching randomly. They knew where to go. I realized they were following something. Me. I ran again, stumbling through the wreckage, slipping on glass, the ground crunching under my boots. The air burned my throat. Behind me, the figures moved without sound. When I reached the road, I saw a truck. Black, unfamiliar, untouched by the destruction. Its door was open, engine still running. I didn't stop to question it. I climbed in, slammed the door, and hit the accelerator. The radio crackled. A voice, human, calm, official, broke through the static. "This is Containment Unit Delta 5. Subject Hale, you are in restricted airspace. Stop the vehicle." My blood ran cold. They knew my name. I pushed the gas harder. The road blurred under me, endless and empty. Then, a flash. A wall of light appeared ahead, stretching across the horizon. When I hit it, everything went white. I came to inside a dim metal room. No windows, no doors, just the hum of machines hidden behind the walls. My head felt like it was full of static. Every memory flickered. The alien, the sphere, the light, all there, but distant, fading. Then a voice spoke from the intercom. "You have seen what you were not meant to see." I looked up. A camera lens stared back at me from the corner. "What do you want?" I asked. My voice cracked. "To contain contamination," it said. "You interacted with a Class Theta entity. You carry its imprint. It must be removed." I laughed. A dry, broken sound. "You mean erase my memory?" "Not memory," the voice said. "Connection." The walls began to glow faintly blue. My skin tingled. My pulse quickened. I could feel something being pulled out of me. Not pain, but absence. A hollowing. Images of the alien flashed behind my eyelids. Its dying gaze, the promise in its voice. "I will buy you time." I screamed. "Wait, don't..." Everything went black. When I woke again, I was lying in the same field. No machines, no barn, no ships, just wind. The bodies were gone. The glassed earth was cracked and covered with frost. And in the distance, a single vehicle waited, black, unmarked. Men in armor stepped out, faces hidden behind visors. On their chests, white letters, "Foreign memory." The one in front spoke quietly into a recorder. "Subject located. Conscious. Begin extraction." He turned to me. "Daniel Hale," he said. "You survived. That makes you valuable." As they led me toward the vehicle, I caught sight of something on his wrist, a small silver emblem shaped like a sphere. I stared at it. He noticed. "Don't worry," he said. "You'll forget soon." The last thing I heard before the door shut was the same hum that started everything. Low, steady, eternal. It wasn't coming from their machines. It was coming from inside me. They told me I was dead. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe that was just how it felt. Because when I opened my eyes, the world wasn't made of air or matter anymore. It was light. Endless. Living light. At first I thought I was dreaming. But dreams have edges, beginnings, gravity. This place had none. I was floating, or rather, existing, in a boundless expanse of shifting radiance. Streams of energy wove around me, millions of them, like rivers of liquid glass. Each stream pulsed with flickering color, and I realized that every pulse carried thought, not sound, not words, but consciousness. It was as if every memory, every fragment of being that ever existed, was flowing past me in a current too vast to comprehend. Then, I saw him. The being, the one we had tried to save. He wasn't physical anymore, not the silver creature from the crash, but a figure made of light, his form woven from the same energy that surrounded us. He drifted toward me through the current. Now you see, his voice came, though there was no sound. This is the sphere. This is where everything goes when it ends. I tried to speak, but my voice was thought now, raw and unshaped. What is this place? It is what you call the afterlife, he said. But it was never meant to be paradise. It is a system, a network that collects the essence of the dead. As he spoke, the light shifted, and I saw, truly saw, what surrounded us. Vast conduits of energy stretching into infinity, each one pulsing with lives. Every death on every world feeding into the same mechanism. Planets flickered and went dark as their people joined the flow. Civilizations reduced to code. This is how your kind sustains existence, he continued. Your deaths power your gods. Your souls fuel our machines. I felt sick, though I had no body to feel it. You told me you wanted to end it. I did. I still do. But the system has no off switch. It is alive now. It feeds on itself. He gestured toward the distance, where a colossal structure floated at the center of everything. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't even geometry that could exist in any normal space. It was a lattice of thought, alive, intelligent, pulsing like a colossal heart made from memory. That is the core of the sphere, he said. Every consciousness, every death, every scream, drawn here and stripped of identity. And then I saw something worse. Among those threads of light, I saw human faces, fleeting, distorted, my colleagues, Sophia, Thomas, Lane. Their minds were here, woven into the structure. I reached out, but my hand passed through them like smoke. They are part of it now, he said softly. Energy, nothing more. Then why am I here? Because I protected you. For a moment, I rewrote your frequency, gave you a false signature. You do not belong here yet. I felt a tug in my chest, like gravity pulling in my existence. Then send me back. You cannot go back unchanged. The sphere marks everything it touches. Then I'll take the mark, I said. Just send me back. He looked at me for what felt like eternity, though there was no time here. You are already marked, he said finally. You carry a part of me now, and they will sense it. The light around us began to distort, flickering with violent waves. The rivers of energy trembled as something vast moved within them. They have found us, he said. A crack tore through the light, spreading outward like glass under pressure. From beyond it came darkness, real darkness, devouring the glow. The voice of the sphere echoed across the void, mechanical and endless. Anomaly detected. Restore balance. The alien turned to me. You must go. Remember what you saw. How? I shouted, though sound didn't exist here. How do I get out? He reached forward, placing what passed for a hand against my chest. The living world will reject you for what you carry. But you must tell them what this is. Make them remember that death was never meant to be harvest. The pressure built until I thought my mind would rupture. The light bent inward. The darkness folded over me like an ocean. And then I fell. The sensation of falling returned all the things I thought I'd lost. Air, gravity, pain. My lungs convulsed. My eyes opened. I was lying on the same field, under the same cold sky. But the world was wrong. Colors muted. sounds distant. The glassed ground shimmered faintly, reflecting a pulse from beneath. I looked at my hands. Veins of light ran under my skin, faint and rhythmic, like the aliens had. The hum I'd heard since the crash was louder now, vibrating through me instead of around me. And then, voices. Dozens of them, whispering just below hearing, like an echo from a dream. Sophia, Thomas, Lane, the alien, all together. We are still here. I staggered to my feet, dizzy, half blind from the returning sunlight. The ships were gone. The sky was clean. No evidence of what had happened, except me. I screamed into the emptiness. Why me? Why let me live? The answer came from inside my head, a whisper that wasn't entirely the aliens anymore. Because now, you are the link between death and the living. And then the world went silent again. Only one sound remained, the soft, endless hum beneath my ribs, syncing perfectly with the rhythm of the earth. When they found me, I was walking barefoot through the desert, if it could even be called that anymore. The glassed soil had cracked into pale shards, stretching toward the horizon like frozen waves. I must have looked insane, clothes torn, eyes hollow, skin faintly glowing under the morning sun. The vehicles appeared first. 3 black trucks, silent, moving in perfect formation. No markings, no dust trail, just inevitability. When they stopped, men stepped out, identical, armored, faces hidden behind black visors. On their sleeves, a white emblem, a circle enclosing a smaller sphere. They didn't raise their weapons. They didn't need to. One of them spoke into a recorder. File 29, subject, Daniel Hale, status, recovered. I tried to speak, to tell them what happened, but my throat was raw. My words disintegrated into broken sounds. They didn't respond. One of them gestured and the others approached, placing a thin metallic band around my wrist. The hum in my body, the one that had followed me since the sphere, vanished instantly. I felt hollow, like a candle snuffed out. They blindfolded me. I don't remember the transport, just flashes, the smell of steel, the vibration of engines, a voice repeating coordinates in a calm monotone. When the blindfold came off, I was in a white room. No windows, just a table, 2 chairs, a camera in the corner, and a faint reflection of my own exhausted face in the mirrored wall. The door opened, and a man entered. He wore no armor, only a black uniform with the words, "Foreign Memory," stitched on the sleeve. He sat across from me, placed a small recorder on the table, and pressed a button. "Daniel Hale," he said evenly. "You were found at Site 14 approximately 26 hours after a non-terrestrial event. Tell us everything." His tone was surgical, detached, rehearsed. I tried to focus, to recall what was real, but the images came out fragmented. Light, voices, the alien, Sophia, the sphere. He listened in silence, no expression, no interruption. When I finished, he leaned back slightly. "What you describe," he said, "matches fragments recovered from previous incidents. The concept of an energy network, a sphere, has appeared before. However, the physical evidence is inconsistent." He paused, studying me. "Do you understand what that means?" "That I'm insane?" I said bitterly. "That you are contaminated," he replied. I stared at him. "You think I'm infected?" He pressed a button. The lights in the room shifted from white to pale blue. My veins lit up like circuitry under my skin. "Residual energy signature," he said calmly. "You've been marked." My pulse quickened. "So what happens now?" He didn't answer directly. "Tell me," he said. "Did the entity communicate a purpose?" "Yes," I whispered. "It said death has been hijacked. That consciousness is being harvested. It wanted me to remember." The man turned off the recorder. "That was your mistake," he said softly. "Remembering. I felt the air change, pressure building in the walls. The hum returned, but this time it wasn't inside me. It came from the building itself, deep and mechanical. A second man entered, carrying a metallic case. He opened it to reveal a small device with a single red light. "This will help," the first man said. "You'll forget what you saw, what you think you saw." "No," I said, standing. "You can't." But they already had my arm. The device touched my temple. A flash, not light, but absence, poured into me, washing the world away. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in a hospital bed. White sheets. Soft beeping. A nurse smiled gently and said I'd been found unconscious near the coast. No mention of the desert. No mention of the farm. No mention of anyone else. They told me my name was Daniel Hale, that I'd suffered a psychological breakdown during a storm evacuation, that the memories I described, the light, the alien, the sphere, were symptoms of trauma. I believed them, for a while. Until the night I woke to the sound of the hum again, faint, coming from inside the walls. I walked to the mirror. Under the sterile hospital light, something glowed faintly beneath my skin. A thin, white pattern, like veins made of light. I pressed my hand against the glass. For a second, I saw another image overlay my reflection. The alien's face, looking through me, not at me. And a whisper, my own voice, from somewhere else. "You recorded it, remember?" I didn't know what it meant. But the next day, I found a small recorder hidden in my jacket pocket. When I played it, my own voice filled the room. They think I'm gone. They think they erased it. But the sphere doesn't forget. Neither do I. I turned it off. My hands were shaking. Outside, sirens echoed in the distance. Through the window, I saw 2 black vehicles parked under the street lights. And then the hum returned, louder now, rising from deep within the ground. Somewhere, far below, another file was being sealed. File 29, classified by foreign memory subject, D. Hale. Status unknown. They think I'm silent, but I'm still writing, and I'm still hearing the hum.